For our next assignment, we are going to make our word illustrations into a final comp, choosing our best rough to do this. So I'm going to go to File and New, and I'm just going to choose letter size paper again. Let's try horizontal this time. Create. All right, so you can see up here, I have my previous drawing up. This one's up here. And now I'm going to go in, and with our word illustrations, we started with a box. So we want a box there to kind of give the edges and bounds of our composition. So I'm going to choose the rectangle tool. I am going to hold Shift to keep it a perfect square. And then for this, I don't want to fill in this. I'm just going to choose no fill because I just want a box. And one thing I want to show you, there's lots of helpful tools here. So if I'm just doing one word illustration, I want to center this box on the page. So to do that, I have the box selected, and I'm going to go to a line at the top here. I'm back in the direction tool, or I'm sorry, I'm back in the selection tool. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go to a line. And then you can see here, you can align things horizontally. You can justify them right or left, align things vertically. So I'm going to align this, but you have to tell it what you want it to align to. So I'm going to align this to the artboard, which is our page here. So I'm going to align it horizontally and vertically. And then it ends up right in the middle of my board. So it's just up here in the align section. And then I chose artboard because if you don't choose artboard, you could say have another square or something like that. If I had another square, I could say align that square to a selection. So I could go here and here. Oops, I have to select them both. Oops. Make sure you're in your arrow tool. Select them both. And then you could say, I want to align this to the selection. So if I go here and here, it will align that. And then I could take both of these and align them to the artboard to center them. Okay. So for the word illustration, oops, undo, I accidentally grabbed them both. I'm going to delete this box. Sometimes it's hard to select exactly what you want, but just kind of have to zoom in and get right directly on the line. So my box is here. I could change the stroke if I wanted to make it thicker or thinner. For me, I think that's good. Just a standard box, 2-point stroke. And now I want to lock this box in place because I just spent all this time aligning it, getting it centered. So to lock the box in place, so that it doesn't actually get nudged or bumped, you can put a lock in your layers panel. So make sure your layers panel is open. Remember, it's along the side here. It looks like a piece of paper, 2 of them stacked on top of each other. So I'm just going to click that. If you're ever missing something over here, you can always go up to Windows and find your layers or whatever you're looking for under Window. Okay, so I have this lock. That means I can't do anything to it. See the no, like, pencil, it won't let you do anything. So I'm going to add a new layer here, and then I'm going to draw my word on that new layer. Okay, so let's talk about how to add text to a document. So the type tool is over here, and if something weird like this happens, like it just grabbed my screen and did that, I'm just going to Control Z or delete it. Hit backspace. On my keypad, I want to mention too, I'm using 2 fingers and going back and forth, and it moves my page back and forth, which is really nice. Just these little things with different computers that work differently. So the type tool is here. With the type tool, there are tools within the type tool kind of nested underneath it. We're going to first talk about just normal type. So if I click and drag a text box, it's going to fill it with some filler text. This is called lorem ipsum, and it's just text in Latin that is random, and it just shows you how it will fill the space. So for our word illustrations, we don't want to click and drag out a text box, but I want you to be aware that you can do this if you have bodies of text that you want to place on your page. So that's an option. Also, when you're in the type tool, you can go to character, and there's some options there for the font. Sometimes it's hard to highlight this character. Come on. I just have to click in the right spot. Okay, so you can see the font is listed. You can play with some of the leading and kerning, which we'll get into later, and that is just like the spacing in between lines. You can play with like the spacing in between letters and things like that in this area. So we're not going to use character today, but that's there as well. You can also see the font listed here and see what the fonts will look like and kind of scroll through them. I also use up here, there's this type drop-down menu, which will tell you your fonts and give you examples of them. And it will also tell you the recent fonts that you've used. So that's kind of nice as well. So there's multiple places to find things here. You can play with the size here. But for these word illustrations, I'm just going to hit Backspace. And if it doesn't get rid of the box completely when you hit Backspace, go to your selection tool. It puts that bounding box up and then hit Backspace. In Illustrator, you're constantly going back to the selection tool. So for this, I'm going to just click, not drag out a text box, and I'm going to write a letter. So I'm going to write an F. And for this, we're not even changing the font for this first simple word illustration. So just type your first letter. Then I'm going to go to my selection tool, and it's going to put that bounding box around it. I'm going to go to the corner of this letter. You may have to Control+ and zoom in if you can't see, but I'm going to go to the corner, and I'm going to hold Shift and drag this. You can also, that just keeps it in proportion. If you want to stretch it or something, if the word is stretch and you want to stretch it, you can do that. You can take this, you can flip it. Remember from before, you can also change this by right-clicking, and you can transform it. So you could rotate it, reflect it, and stuff from this area as well. But I'm just going to click on it, and this is going to be float. So maybe I want to make some of these kind of cockeyed. Remember, you can also go to the corner, get that curved arrow, and you can rotate things. So for this, I'm going to click back to the type tool and type each letter separately. If I want to do, just going, and I'm doing caps for this, back to the T, A, I'm going back. Let's see, the type tool is T. So if you want to just get to that, it might though, if this is highlighted, type a T. No, it didn't. So I can go to the type tool and type, oops, it's putting type there. Okay, now I went to the wrong type tool. T is technically the key command for that, but it's being a little finicky, which Illustrator often is. Okay, so I've typed each one of these letters separately. Now I can go in. I just want to mention, if I go to the direct selection tool as well, I can type or click on a letter. You can change the color. You could make this say white if you wanted to with a black outline, say. So you can change that here. To make your letters thicker or bolder, you could also like add a stroke to it and then just increase the stroke size or stroke width if you want to do that as well. So for each one of these, I'm just going to click, maybe just play with their position. Maybe one of these would be cool to overlap. This is a cool technique too. You could do something, if you do a white stroke on a black letter and it's overlapping, look, it kind of makes that stand out. So after arranging my letters a little, moving things around, I ended up with this. So the T is kind of floating out of the box, and I just tried to play with the arrangement to make it a little bit quirky. So with each letter, I typed it separately and rotated it and made it its own size. So size, overlapping, position within the box can make a big difference to give your letter some meaning or your word some meaning. So I just wanted to show you another option here in your layers. So I have all my letters on one layer. You can open the layer and see within each layer. Right now I have my background locked. You could, if you want to unlock your background, it just has that rectangle. I unlocked it. I could click on this and make it a different color, the box, if you think that will help with, illustrate your word a bit better. I'm going to lock that back up because now if I click on the layer where my letters are, I can grab the whole thing and it's not going to select the black background. So that's just left alone because it's locked. And I can go in and change all of these. Maybe now I want to add a black outline. Let me click off of them. I'm just going to click the L now. I want to add a black outline to the L. And I'm not going to see that outline yet because it's actually behind the O. So I'm going to right click and arrange this and bring it to the front. Let's see, I can change that. I can make the outline a little thicker. But then, of course, it's kind of making my fill a little bit thinner. Maybe I'll stretch it out to I'm kind of distorting it a bit to kind of stretch it and make it a little thicker. So then I can do it this way as well. Now my T is not showing, so maybe I need to do an outline on the T as well. You could do something like that, or I could change my word to like floating if I wanted to. But that's just an option. And it kind of helps you practice getting into your layers here. So if I wanted to change everything except the L and the T, now with just those F, O, and A's, I can lock them in my layers. I have the T and the L, and then I could change these as well if I wanted to, which I don't, but I could change them to like a gray. So remember, for this one, you are only using black and white, and then grays if you need to. You could do that. We talked about the word fade in one of our practices. So if I type the word fade, say that was my word, I could type it all in one row if I wanted to. And then I could go in, like double click here and just go to the opacity of each letter and fade it slowly. I could also go in here and change it to different lightnesses of gray, right? So you could play with the opacity or change it to different grays for this. Just have it slowly fade. That would be if you needed a word to change the letters of the word and make them opaque or play with the transparency. Okay, and then when you're finished with your word illustration, you are going to save this with your last name or first name first, dash. You could just say word. That's fine. If you've got multiple words, you could say word 1, 2, 3. I'm saving this as an Illustrator file, so all my layers are there. They remain intact. I can go in and make changes if I want. And then I'm also going to export it. Export as a PNG. Click that Use Artboards. And this is basically taking a picture of my file. I want it to be a 300 ppi and have a white background for this.